We are live. Welcome to the Lovecraft Easing podcast, everybody. Boys and girls, all the ships at sea. And Kelly Young is here,
Hey guys,
decided to grace us with his presence,
thanks for having me.
of course. And we all have one of these.
Oh,
Show them if you got them.
you guys.
Yep.
That is so nice of you.
For those listening later and not watching, this is Anna Carcosa, 1 Year Under Twin Suns, by Kelly Young and what's his first name? Corliss?
Rob
Corliss, yes. And yeah, let's just do introductions real quick, and then let's tell us about this little chat book, Kelly. As soon as we do that, Mike Davis, Lovecraft Easing. If you're here, you might have an inkling of who I am. Mark Rainey, since you're late, you can do the first introduction.
Okay. I'm Mark Rainey, horror writer, editor, all around troublemaker.
There you go.
And the bane of Mike's existence, I think.
Well, you have a book coming out.
I've been working at that. Yeah.
You do a good job.
Thank you.
You've got a book coming out. It's available for pre-order on Amazon and the
That's
publishers,
correct.
right?
Yeah, it's from Crossroad Press, The House at Blacktooth Pond. The release date, I believe, is February 11th, 2025. But the paperback and ebook is currently available for pre-order. And there will be an audio book read by Joshua Saxon, who is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah,
audiobook reader.
Yeah, he's a good narrator, really good.
Yeah.
So again, guys, that's The House at Blacktooth Pond. I've read it. I really loved it. Seriously. So yeah, check it out.
Thank you, Mike.
Alan.
Hey, Alan Hughes, game reviewer, artist, and patron for the Easing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, everyone here is a patron, even Kelly Young.
I was wondering why you let Kelly in here.
That's why.
He
pays $500. He's the only $500 a month tier member, and it affords him certain privileges. So
I thought, wait a second, I thought you said everybody had to pay that much.
I did say that to you. You're absolutely right. I did say that. So yeah, welcome to everybody watching live, watching and listening later too. DeBronzo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Mike DeBronzo, artist. I work in architecture. And for those not viewing us, I have some very dramatic lighting going on here. All about the mood.
Yep. He's our Ted Mosby of the group. So Kim Smelter says, rumor has it that Kelly's been domesticated.
Yeah.
So
I don't
know. So
I don't know.
I read Kelly's book. There's nothing domestic about him.
James, it depends on the questions. Sorry, what?
You said some nice things about it too, Mark. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. That was
Sorry, it was an accident.
And yes, Kelly's here.
Yeah, Kelly Young, friend of the show, author,
alumni,
yes.
Yeah, your volume is still a little bit low, but I can hear you.
It's still low, huh?
I mean, it's passable. It's passable.
Man, I wonder what's going on.
That's better.
Kelly, are you having trouble getting it up?
Come on, Jesus Christ!
Not usually, but I think Mike sabotages my sound every time I come on.
Yeah, because I have that ability.
He might be onto something.
Have you seen The Yellow Sign? And yeah, tell us about the book. It's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a chapbook.
It is available on Amazon. It's a chapbook. It is a very slim volume. It is called Anno Carcosa, and it is, if you're a King in Yellow fan, it's a King in Yellow story. It is the story of, if you know about the King in Yellow, the second act of the play, if it's performed, drives everybody who's seen it insane.
Right.
Well, the second act of the play gets read on live television during an award ceremony, and the world goes insane. And it's done kind of in the style of a calendar. So every month has an image drawn by the amazing Rob Corliss, and then the text lies over the date part of the calendar.
Mhm. It's kind of a rom-com, if you like that sort of thing.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, you know
Matt.
me.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely. I mean, you consume
I am
romance.
going to be on that one because I love King and Yellowtails.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Hey, Matt,
hey,
you want to
Howdy,
introduce
Matt.
yourself? Got a prize?
I do. Are we live?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay.
Depends on
So,
what you want to say.
well, the prize isn't a book. It's a, card game. This is from a 2014 Kickstarter. It is called Cthulhu: The Great Old One. So it's a fast-paced card game for 3 to 4 people. You can win this. This copy's never been opened. It's even signed by the artist
Oh,
or
wow.
author. So if you want to win it, send an email to easyandprizes@gmail.com and put purple in the subject heading because the box is purple.
Well, it was nice of you to
And I've
support
got
the
other
Kickstarter when
I've
you
got
didn't even play the game.
well, I got a bunch of copies, and so
Oh,
next week there may be a green one, so this one's purple.
all right. Purple. Put purple in the subject. All right. So yeah, Kelly's got a new book out, and by the way, there's another that movie Werewolves Within, guys. I haven't seen it, but you guys were saying that's pretty good. Is it?
Yeah,
It's very
fun.
entertaining. It's a fun movie, fun characters, not a lot of substance. Doesn't matter. You don't need it. It was just an enjoyable flick.
Nothing like Wicked, in other words.
Um, it just that movie wasn't for me. I just went today. This is the first movie I've been to in ages where the theater was more than half full. Most of the people attending were families with young girls, which is, I suppose, to be expected.
That didn't
You know,
clue you
they
that you
have
were in
a
the
they
wrong
have a
place.
musical that's overly long, and sorry to be a Grinch, but only has 1 or 2 good songs.
We're used to it.
So what do with this musical that's overly long? Oh, I know what you do is you stretch it out further and turn it into 2 overly long movies. And you write a bunch of extra music, which has all the substance of cotton candy. And maybe you can go and enjoy it. It's beautiful sets, The music's well done. The actors are very pretty, and the singing is great. It's just, did we really need to reimagine the Wizard of Oz?
All
Did
right.
the Wizard
You've
really need a backstory?
convinced me. I'm not going to go see it now. Of course, I wasn't going to go see it before, but you've really convinced me now.
Other people will say it's great. For me, it's like, oh, come on.
Well,
I'd rather watch Werewolves Within, though.
if you go to Bloody Disgusting, you can win a custom-built werewolf head by Alex Gillis.
Ooh.
Is Werewolves a sequel to Werewolves Within, or is it a different franchise?
It's got to be completely
different.
Werewolves Within was a one-off, I'm sure.
Oh, this is described as The Purge with Werewolves. It's headed our way December 6th. And they're giving away 10 werewolf heads. Just go to Bloody Disgusting if you're
Ooh, this
interested in
sounds
this.
so cool.
I know.
I'm surprised Mike DeBronzo didn't already win one and is showing it to us.
You can also get a signed poster by Frank Grillo. The catch is you have to provide proof that you went to see the movie. So maybe that's a sign that they're worried. I don't know. Maybe it's not.
What are you supposed to bring with you? You're supposed to like bust the seat open?
Huh?
I mean, prove that you were there. I mean,
Your,
you give
your
it
ticket.
You know, sometimes it's just digital.
Yeah,
No.
print it off. You can print it as a PDF, right?
Oh, yes. Enter now with proof of ticket purchase.
Yeah.
They could
Oh.
trust me.
It's not very challenging.
They could trust you.
I mean, they could. I wouldn't recommend it, but I would swear solemnly that I'd go see the movie in the theater, sort of, kind of.
So, Kelly, do you know about this new Cody Goodfellow venture?
About heavy metal?
Yeah.
I have heard of Heavy Metal Magazine, yes.
So he sends me an email a couple weeks ago. So I don't know how it happened either, but I'm the new fiction editor for Heavy Metal when it relaunches. They're looking for new and overlooked reprint prose to run in the zine and the site. And apparently, well, you sent me this before the Kickstarter started, but there's a Kickstarter for Heavy Metal Magazine #1. So it looks like it's doing okay, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think the Kickstarter has happened yet, actually.
Okay. That's what I'm missing here. Well, anyway, what you can do if you want to support Cody Goodfellow's new venture is just Google Heavy Metal Magazine and Kickstarter. I'm sure that would do it. And
Boy, that was a really cool magazine 30, 40 years ago when it was running. Great art, great comics, very cutting edge.
and its day is once again here with Cody heading the fiction gig. So anyway, I'm really happy for Cody. I want this to succeed, which it probably
Yeah,
will.
me too.
I'll subscribe, but I'm a sucker.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving away Kickstarter stuff that you paid for and haven't even opened.
I've got multiple copies.
So
I thought I was investing. This was going to be my kid's college fund. I kept telling my wife. No, I didn't. She wouldn't have believed me either.
DeBronzo, have you read Batman Full Moon yet? While we're on the subject of werewolves.
No, I'm behind you guys. But you praised it, right?
Yeah,
good?
it's good. Yeah.
It's Rodney Barnes wrote it, correct?
I didn't pay attention to that.
I think he did, because he did Philadelphia, which I haven't read, but Matt, you had it and gave it away as a prize. So werewolves and Batman, I don't think you can go wrong with that.
And he's dating Zatanna in this.
Well, he's Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
The $1 billion doesn't hurt either.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I realized that I had a Kindle copy of The Shining, Stephen King's The Shining. I must have bought it when it was $1.99 at some point. But I'll admit that I've never read The Shining. I never did because, the movie, well, when I was a kid, I thought the movie and the book were just sort of, I've seen the movie, I don't have to read the book. I'll read a different Stephen King novel. Of course, now I know they're vastly different, but I'm wondering still if it's my thing or not, if I would enjoy it. What do you guys think?
I read it 5 years ago. That was the first time I read it. I enjoyed it. It's a different animal than the movie. There's a reason why King hates it. I don't want to ruin it for you. I mean, it's basically the same story, but there's Jack Torrance is more of a focal point. He's more human too.
Yeah, he still descends into madness, right? And I'm just wondering if that's something
he doesn't start out as Jack Nicholson being Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
James, that's a good question. I'll get to your question here in just a bit. So yeah, anyway, what were you saying, Mike?
I was just gonna say basically what Mark said. Like Jack is you can actually sympathize with Jack. It's more of like I said, it's been like 5 years, but from what I remember, you're more in his head. Like, in the movie, he's damaged before the movie starts. That's just it. Yeah. In the book, he's like his father. He has his issues, alcohol. In the movie, you get that too. He's an alcoholic, but he's fighting not to be that.
Yeah, I started reading it, and Jack says that he's been sober for 14 months when the novel begins. something like that.
Yeah. So I would definitely read it. You know?
Well, I bring it up too because I thought I'd ask you guys what is your favorite Stephen King novel? Not short stories, but novel. And I'm glad Kelly's here. Kelly's a big Stephen King fan. So get your thoughts. Yeah, there you go. Get your thoughts on it too.
Huge. I'm very jealous that Pete is out watching the Rock Bottom Remainders today or yesterday or something like that, which was
Yeah, I saw that too.
yeah, Stephen King's band.
Oh, I didn't know he had a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and a couple other writers
There's-
all get together very rarely.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kind of
If you Google it,
echo
it'll
shows.
show everybody that's been in it. And it's like, just not like horror. It's all over the place. I think Maya Angelou is like one of the people that's in there. Ridley
really?
Pearson.
Amy
Yeah,
Tan.
who?
So
Who'd you
Amy
say,
Tan
Alan?
is what you said, right?
Oh, okay.
Amy Tan, yeah, Joy Luck Club.
Yeah, Peter Straub was in it.
Was he?
I'm kidding. I doubt it.
There's a good chance he might if everybody else has, except us.
So I guess I'll go first and say that. Well, I might as well out myself some more. Uh, I haven't read Dark Tower series yet, as you guys know. It's
Neither
hard
have
to
I.
get past book one for me, at least. But Doom, I've read. I guess I probably read 90% of his novels, and my favorite is Doom McKee. So if you remember that one, have you read that one, Mike?
No, I haven't read Doom McKee.
Oh, you should.
I-
Yeah.
I was always his short fiction was always the attraction for me.
Yeah.
I've read novels, but I like you guys probably way what I've read compared.
Yeah.
I think I might have read like by count on my head like 6 or 7, maybe tops. But everything else I've read a ton of his short fiction.
Well, he's written a lot.
Yeah,
And his short fiction's superb. That's what I grew up reading.
Yeah.
I didn't really get into his novels until later. So yeah.
Yeah, I read Night Shift. That was the first introduction for me to King was Night Shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Who wants to go?
Well, I've read a lot of his novels over the years. I think, the guy deserves his accolades because
Yeah.
he really can write people and their relationships, and it all makes them just seem so identifiable, on the page. Whatever people may disparage him, I think he really writes very enjoyable prose, very easy to read. I think it's a very difficult question, but I think for me it probably would be Joyland. Very short novel, only a wisp of the supernatural, but just such an enjoyable read with a really kind of interesting mystery. And
Well, thanks, because I have not read that one yet.
If you like anything about carnies or theme parks, it gets into the nuts and bolts of the people who work there. It's just, he's written 3 novels for the short novels for the Hard Case Crime series. Those books. The first was The Colorado Kid, and then he also wrote later. Joyland was the second, and that's got to be my favorite. It's really short, but I really liked it.
That's good to know. Is it a series or just?
No,
Okay.
no, but you know how he does with when he creates something that he likes is he'll throw the name somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like in the novel Revival, they mention the park Joyland. One sentence, that's it.
And for what it's worth, I never got the, Stephen King is hugely popular, so let's be cool and disparage him thing. He's a very talented writer.
Given me a lot of pleasure reading over the years.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what it's all about.
Back in Death Realm days, 80s and 90s, I read religiously, that wouldn't be early work for him. But, in that period, I really haven't read that much of his stuff in more recent years. Of the older stuff, The Mist, the novella, was always a real favorite of mine. And I liked the movie pretty well. I love Pet Sematary, not the movies, but the novel. Novel packed a pretty good wallop. And of his more recent stuff, I would say 11/22/63. I really loved that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And if you're a cosmic horror fan, well, he's written cosmic horror, and it's been part of some other stories that he's written. But Revival is just straight up cosmic horror.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you haven't read that one yet.
I have not.
Wait a minute.
It's unutterably grim.
Yeah.
You think you understand that it's grim, and you really don't till you get to the end.
Yeah. So
Writing, right.
so you should read it, Mark.
I definitely need to.
Who's read it besides Matt? Kelly, you've read Revival.
Yeah, I love Revival. Yeah,
Yeah.
very downbeat ending.
Yeah, you could say that. All right. So what's your favorite Stephen King book, Kelly?
Up until about 5 years ago, it was The Shining. I think it is one of the greatest American novels ever written, quite honestly. It is a superb ghost story. And I grew up with an alcoholic father, and it really resonated with me when I first read it. I was about 13, and I've probably read it a dozen times since then.
Wow.
But something happened about 5 years ago where I picked up Pet Cemetery again, and it hit me really, really hard this time. I think the difference being, reading it as an adult rather than a kid, and dealing with the adult stuff that Lewis was going through in that novel. Really,
I would
spoke to
agree
me.
with that because I read it when it first came out. And then last year, Kim and I were on a long trip, so we listened to the audiobook, and revisiting it that way, it really did. I found it more meaningful.
Yeah, is that the audiobook that was read by the guy from Dexter?
Dexter, yeah.
Oh my God, that is so good.
He was
Really?
great. Yeah, he was awesome.
Kelly, when you say it hit you hard as an adult, do you mean hard in the end of the mist hard, or just hard in that it just was really more meaningful to you?
Have you read the book, Mike?
No, that's what prompted this whole conversation because, as I was saying, The Shining, um, I realized that I had it on my Kindle for $1.99.
But I mean, are you asking me about The Shining or Pet Cemetery?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've read Pet Cemetery. I'm asking you why Pet Cemetery hit you hard again 5 years ago.
I think that I don't have kids, obviously, but and that was just something that that story is, of course, all about loss and struggling to keep a family together when everything is happening. So that was just stuff that I had not experienced when I read it. I thought it was a great horror novel when I was reading it as a 15, 16-year-old. Um, Coming at it in my late 40s, again, I had experienced loss and the difficulties of trying to keep a family together when everything else is falling apart, and all of that stuff just resonated with me a lot deeper than it could while I was a teenager.
You were in your late 40s 5 years ago?
I was 49 5 years ago.
Yeah, boy, just right on the edge there.
I'm gonna, you know what? This interview is over.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Alan?
The first thing I read by King was probably The Stand. That's weird, taking a swing at the biggest book, and I would have probably stood by that one for a long time. But I liked so much of his post 2000 stuff. Dr. Sleep, I really like. Revival. So I like. I'm kind of more of a fan of Later King now.
Is the I've seen the movie of Doctor Sleep. Is it pretty close to the book? I haven't read the novel.
It's closer than The Shining.
Mhm.
King actually likes that one.
Right,
And-
I remember.
And Flanagan had to kind of bridge the two.
Right,
So
I
it
heard that it
connects to the
honors
movie.
both the book and the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay. Well, just back to Kelly for a second. I thought for sure you were going to say It for Stephen King.
You'd think so, right? Because of my love for 80s and 80s kids
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And I do love that. I think that is a really brilliant bit of storytelling and a real doorstop.
If it weren't for the ending, it would probably be my favorite. I just that ending I just could not abide. And the same for The Stand. I hated the ending of The Stand so bad after investing all that time in it. I chucked it over my shoulder and haven't revisited it since.
I don't remember the ending to The Stand. I think I read it when I was a kid, but I can't. Yeah.
Well, I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it, but it seemed the most easy way out I've ever read in a book.
Huh. Did I get to everyone? I think I did.
No. Matt, did you answer? I didn't answer.
I thought Matt answered.
Yeah, I'm
Matt
very
answered.
memorable.
Yeah, Joyland.
Joyland, that's right.
Joyland, I'm sorry. I'm kind of awake, Matt. Sorry. I actually, when we started talking, I jotted down, so I couldn't remember what I had read. So the books I read were The Shining, Carrie, Dead Zone, Salem's Lot, Pet Cemetery, It, From a Buick 8, and Cycle of the Werewolf. They're all solid. I mean, there's nothing on that list that I just said. I mean, they're all excellent books.
Yeah.
So, but for a favorite, there's like parts of It that I love. Like when Mike is flashing back to the history of dairy. That's actually part of the most memorable stuff for me in the book. And it's like 1,200 pages. But like, I don't know. It's kind of for me, it's a tough question. I started with Carrie and I went to Salem's Lot. Dead Zone's excellent. Pet Cemetery, The Shining, and It were all 5 years ago. I decided to catch up on my King. So I read them one after another after another. So not my favorite, but from a Buick 8 always sticks out in my head. I enjoyed it, even though it doesn't have an ending or third act or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
It's just I really enjoy his writing in that. It's just this casual. We're talking about the car and stuff that's happened, and it worked for me.
Well, you know what? In the same sense, a lot of people can't stand the Colorado Kid because it doesn't really have an ending or an explanation. But the writing is just a joy to read.
Yeah. Cycle of the Werewolf's a novella, and it's very brief. And Bernie writes, and it's a big reason that sticks in my head. But I like that too. It's just like boom, 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 and you're done with the story. So if I go, that's the only one on the list I've reread because it's briefer, and I'm a sucker for werewolves too.
Well, if we're going with novellas too, I'll add in. If you haven't read that, talking to the audience.
I don't even know how to classify it. It was like originally, I think, a graphic novel, right?
No, it was originally the shorts. It was originally the novella.
Oh, I thought it was the YouTube sequence of short subjects.
That's taken from the graphic novel, I think.
Yeah, that did happen, but after the story.
Yeah, I have the graphic novel, not right here, but yeah. Beautiful art. I think it's Alex Malkeev does the art. And it's just, if you've seen what you showed for movie night, that's the same thing. So.
Very, very Lovecraftian, although King says it owes more to Arthur Machen.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I realize it's hard to pick a favorite. So, by the way, I think I accidentally deleted your messages on the chat there. Chaz, let me see if I can fix that. My thumb hit the wrong damn button. Yeah, I'll fix that. Sorry. All right, so James has a question while I try to figure this out. He says, I have a question about horror and aging. It's well known that brains age, and with time, people lose the intensity of sensations when it comes to joy, excitement, sexuality. I don't know how much that is true, joy and excitement. How much of our ability to experience fear also deteriorates with time? Anybody want to take that one?
Well,
Well,
it,
I'm the
it,
oldest one here, I think. I would say in real life, fear is, I mean, I would say fear, whatever I might have had actual fears about as a younger person, is more of a apprehension or an anxiety. It's not the same, I don't think, about being afraid of, whether it's an immediate threat or, what's going to happen in the economy or, all that kind of stuff. But there is something that rings true about how the intensity of perceptions for me is not what it was 10 years ago. Um, as far as like a lot of writing goes for me, I feel like over 40 years, so many of the books and stories that were in me dying to get out that I absolutely had to write. I've done so many of those, and now and I still have ideas. I still have things that I feel like I have to write, but it may not be with the same intensity. I still put everything I've got into it, but it's harder for me to hold on to the drive.
my view is your life just changes in ways you don't fathom when you're 20. I'm
Yeah.
66.
Hmm.
It's like, so you're a lot closer to your mortality.
So you're the
A
oldest
lot,
one in the room.
a lot more of your fears are focused on what the fuck is going to happen to my kids,
Hmm.
when I'm gone and not to clean up their messes. Or it's like,
Yeah.
but suppose you're on the highway and a truck just swerves in front of you and you barely keep control of your vehicle. You're still going to pump out the adrenaline and slam on the brakes and say, what the hell? That's scary. That's scary for anybody.
Yeah.
But in terms of whatever dreads or anxieties you have, like as Mark was saying, your life is different. It's like you're not so worried like, oh, I still have to maintain a career. I have to answer to all these people. It's like uh you no longer have to worry about, are you cool? Do you fit in at parties? No one
Yeah.
invites you to parties except people your own age.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
was going to say that
they
maybe this
run from like
relates.
New Year's runs from like 7 p.m. to 7:30, and then you go home.
Maybe this relates more to, I don't know, concern or worry than fear. I don't know. But if you've allowed yourself to learn life lessons, when you reach a certain age, it's probably different for everyone, but you feel, or at least I feel, and have for a long time, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I just want to live my life, you know. And I didn't feel that way 30 years ago, but I do now. As far as fear goes, I guess I would just reply, James, this what Matt just did. If it's an immediate threat, I think a 60-year-old and a 20-year-old are going to react more or less the same. Maybe the 60-year-old's a little slower, but the fear is still there.
I would say that's true, but I had a couple of close calls when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I dwelled on it afterward. I mean, the immediate reaction, yeah, probably the same. And I guess is not too long. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't quite the example that Matt gave, but I was out on a trail and slid on some rocks and barely caught myself, before pitching like 18 or 20 feet down into these jagged rocks. And I felt just that same rush and the same immediate reaction. But afterward, I didn't dwell on it, not the way that I had, in years past when if I got a close call, then it rattled me pretty hard for a while. And this one I just kind of shrugged off.
I think you got to be careful. Like reading isn't scary, even if the novel's nerve-wracking or disturbing or frightening things are happening. I just don't get scared reading a book.
Do you get a
Same.
sense of
never have.
unease and
Yeah.
horror and terror, and the surroundings are something too? I mean, if you're reading a Laird Barron book on the beach, for example, and you're reading that same book in the dead of night, or insert, exchange that with Stephen King, Peter Straub, or whoever you want to.
First time I tried reading it was when I was like 18, and I would start reading it at 12 midnight because I was a night owl, and freak myself out after a couple nights of reading it because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and everything's quiet and it's dark except for your lamp. And yeah, it works.
If it becomes difficult to experience vicarious fear, that's not because of age. I think for me of us, it's because we've read so much.
Yeah, you're jaded.
Good point.
Yeah. Same thing with movies. Once in a while, one comes along that will get you, but the experience of like when we're kids and we see for the first time, and it's just like you can't capture that. It's like your first kiss.
That's very true.
Yeah. Now I'll mention that this morning at 6 a.m, I actually was jarred awake from a nightmare, and it was a supernatural nightmare, and I haven't felt fear like that from a dream since like right before I wrote the Nightmare Frontier in the early 2000s. But this hit me so hard. I was actually, it's the first time in years and years and years, I lay in the bed just nervous as hell. And I actually took my phone and I recorded, I while it was still right there in my brain. It took me 5 minutes to narrate the story of that dream because it was coherent. The dream had a linear plot. I couldn't just, immediately turn it into a story because it would, it needed a lot more meat on those bones. But damn, that unsettled me like I haven't had in a long, long time, and I kind of welcome that. I've missed that.
Well, that's a timely answer to James's question, because if you haven't had a dream like that in 20 years, I mean, you were what, in your 40s 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, which is from my angle, kind of young. It's not young, but it's still kind of young. Kelly, you want to weigh in on this? I mean, you're the oldest person here.
Are you older than me too, Kelly?
Now Kelly's
Yes,
like,
I
now I
am.
remember why.
There's no way.
198 years old.
Now I remember. I tell Mike I'm busy on Sundays, but now I remember why I really don't do this show as much as I used to.
I wonder if what James was asking about more was, the kind of thing that scares us when we are reading a book or when we're watching a movie or something like that. I can sometimes be startled in a movie, or the hair rise up on my arms if it's a really creepy scene or something like that. But in real life, the things that scare me are, losing loved ones or cancer or, auto accidents and shit like that. So I still have very real fears of losing people. So, and that's probably not what he's talking about, but I think that as you get older, those are the things that you are scared, especially if what you do is read the kind of stuff we read constantly.
Yeah. Kelly, I'm going to stay on this, but I want to ask you, did you see the film Oddity this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I interviewed the director. By the way, for anyone who hasn't seen that, it was a really fun interview about 2 months ago when it was still in the theaters. Really nice guy. But anyway, that film not only is one of the best movies of 2024, if not the best, which is subjective, of course, but it has, you mentioned being startled in a film and so forth, Kelly. it has the jump scares in there, the startle effect, which are well earned in my view, but it also has this creeping sense of dread in a lot of the movie too that just builds and builds and builds. And that is a different kind of fear than the startle that you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
do you remember years ago we had talked about a TV series called Marianne that was on Netflix? I think it was a French series, and
No, I don't.
it was scary. I
Yeah,
mean, it
I
was one
remember
of
watching
those.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Really?
remember
Uh,
watching that in the dark, and I was like, "What the hell am I doing? I am freaking myself out."
Marianne TV series?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
I'm
think probably
Googling it.
4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it was
Wow,
French, wasn't it? Wasn't it French?
100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Jesus. Not that that always means
A-
everything. 2019
And
looks like.
I had suggested that to my brother and his wife because they like scary stuff. And then a couple months later, I asked them if they had watched it, and they both said we had to quit. It was too scary.
Well,
So
I'm
I
gonna
think that
watch it.
there's stuff out there that still can do that. It all just also we all get out of art what we bring to it. So whatever scares you is going to scare you if you can find that.
Uh,
If
I don't know the full intent of his question, but and he can James can comment again if he wants to, but yeah, I thought I would ask you guys both in terms of reading and watching horror and also the real life question, so
real life, when I was surfing and it was horrible at it, I only did it for like 2 years, if you want to call it surfing. Uh, I was out with my friend and we are the only two on the water.
yeah.
And you kind of zone out because you have to wait for the waves to come in and catch them at a certain way in a certain time. And I sucked at it. So I started zoning out. And then all of a sudden, it's like, when somebody comes up behind you and you have that sensation,
Yeah.
somebody's there. I just kind of looked over my shoulder for a second. It was a wave.
Oh,
Never knew it was coming. And it just, boom, dropped on me, shoved me down underneath. But you have a leash tied to your ankle that's tied to the surfboard so you don't lose it. Well, it took the surfboard with me still under the water, and I was caught up in a wave like a washing machine, and just
Mm.
up and down, up and down. I kept seeing the sun, and I'm just trying not to panic. And you're just, it's like you're not thinking like right now. It's just like you're in the
yeah.
moment. Fucking terrifying because it dragged me. I was way out past the jetties, or towards the end of the jetties, and I don't know how far that was, but it's far. And I might have been under the water for maybe a minute, minute and a half, but I'm trying to hold my breath because I can't get up and break the water.
When you go up, it just
And then
slams you down again.
it just kept yanking at my ankle. And it was just, instead of just dragging me along, it would be like, going around and around and around. And then my back hit like shells. So I knew I had actually hit the beach. And it was like this close to like, I couldn't hold my breath anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, I couldn't really think, you're not thinking straight, but you are thinking like, I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And I almost did. And it's just like, you get out and I'm just sitting there on the beach, freaked out. And like, that was terrifying. That's probably the most terrifying thing I can remember. There's been other stuff that scared the shit out of me because it was dangerous or you're in a bad situation.
Sure.
But I remember just sitting on that beach and just staring at the water. And then the only thing that kind of lightened it up, I'm looking at my surfboard and it's floating out. The fucking leash broke after I got to the damn beach. And I just was like, started laughing. I'm like, you piece of shit. That was the last day. It was the last day I ever did it too. It broke me. I'm like, I think I'm done. I'm not good at this. And I almost died. The only thing I did I did do, I'm not going to be freaked out by the ocean. So I grabbed the board and went back in, just paddled out. Didn't do anything special and paddled back in. But man, that was fucking terrifying.
Sounds like it, man. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you did come out of it. I mean, that you were, that was a dumb way to put it, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I like those, like the shells, like, cause I was facing up, I guess at that point,
Yeah.
like I could actually see, but I was, it wasn't going to be much longer, but I felt the shells on my back. it was cutting into my back because it's all, when you get close to the beach, and it was just like, that was like, oh yes, I'm not gonna fucking die. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gives you it definitely gave me an appreciation for you can go
Yeah, you just
anytime.
took the words out of my mouth, and then it's like you have this feeling of I'm reborn, man. I this new appreciation for just the simple fact of being alive. You know.
Yeah. You
Uh,
realize, especially when you're younger, you're not invulnerable. When you're younger, you think you're Superman, right? And then you're
you
like,
really do. I was about to ask you guys about fear of death. I do think I appreciate it, James. I think this is an interesting question, but I will say I'll give you guys my answer as far as real life goes. Well, listening to audiobooks and reading books and watching movies, I like being creeped out. Do movies scare me or books? Not, no, not in the sense that I get scared, but I like that feeling of it's kind of a mixture of mysterious awe and fear. Like there's more to the universe than we know, and there's a movie called Head Count. There's many movies that are a good example of this, but if you haven't seen the movie Head Count, there's a I won't give it away, but just so you know to watch for it, you know what I'm talking about if you see the movie. About 30 to 45 minutes in, this these two college kids, boy and a girl, are out in a hot tub, and it's a house in the desert that these kids have rented. And then something happens just sort of in the background, and it's so fucking chilling. Um, to the audience and to you guys, if you've not seen Head Count, watch it and then email me and tell me what you think, because that's a good example. But I don't tend I'm not gonna I tend to set myself up for getting that creepy feeling. Like I like listening to audiobooks in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. Whereas if I'm listening, like I said, if you're listening to that same horror audiobook and you're walking at noon, doing your daily walk or whatever, you're probably not going to feel nearly as chilled.
change the environment.
Yes, and
Like,
yeah,
I was
absolutely,
just gonna
Mike.
say, like horror movies. I've watched horror movies since I was 5. It's my favorite. I watch all types of movies, but horror would be my favorite. But if I watch it anytime during the day, whether it's a theater, at home, whatever, I'm just watching a movie. I'm like,
Right,
oh, cool. It doesn't mean I don't
right.
enjoy it, but to get scared, it's like lights out by myself, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning when everything's quiet. And because then it's like fear of the dark or whatever you want to call it. We all have that at some level, and just it's more immersive, and you're watching
Yeah.
that movie and you're into it.
It's
So
just
if it
some people have said, well, yeah, I watch horror movies in the middle of the day so I don't get too scared. Why are you watching horror movies at all? But that's just me. Uh, okay, I want to ask about fear of death, but James says he's in his 20s. I'm worried about my ability to enjoy horror literature in the future. Will you feel cosmic horror with the same intensity as you do, and other horror probably too, James, as you do when you're in your teens? I guess not. It's suppressing. I would disagree, James. I think you will. Especially like we were just talking about, if you set yourself up for it.
As you get older, you're going to feel it more as you start realizing that it's not fiction and everything. It's
Yeah.
more not.
Well, the
Yeah.
other thing is like this was Mark was saying. By the time you get to this age, I have read so many books that I really value a new voice, an original way of presenting something, some kind of new creepy something
Yeah.
that I'd never been exposed to before. It's so some of the old timey stuff, uh, you know, rereading. I used to reread stories a lot, and I really hardly ever do it anymore because
Same.
same.
but if I come across a brand new book and it really creeps me out good, I think the thrill is the same. It's just
Yeah.
your context. One reason you may say like, oh, old people take so long to formulate their thoughts is they're trying to put everything into a context much more vast than you currently have. You know, a lot more history that you've been through, a lot more real life horrors that have happened. The pace of scientific discovery has gone on, and
Yeah.
come on, tabula rasa. I want to be entertained. What do you got for me? Is it something new?
And it's why
Yeah, well,
people like all of us, we really value when we read that book, that horror book, and or watch that horror movie, and it's something. There's a different twist, something that we haven't experienced per se before, and we want to tell everybody about it. Sorry, Mark.
yeah,
Go on. Or Mike.
I was just one of the things that we were talking about, the intensity of fear, and you're right. Reading does not in itself cause me to be afraid at all anymore, but I love a story that can make me remember what it felt like when I was afraid of reading, when
Interesting.
I was reading something scary.
That's interesting. Hadn't thought of it that way. I do reread a lot personally.
But
Depending on,
I gotta say, reading has never scared me. Do you know what I mean? When I'm
Yeah.
reading a book, I'm not scared. There's only like 2 occasions where I freaked out reading a book, and they were both, I don't know the circumstance it was in more than anything. But even when I'm reading like a Peter Straub, you know, something terrible is happening, it's like I'm not actually scared. It's like I am a sucker for jump scares in a movie. You know, I know they're coming. I know you shouldn't open that closet.
Do you
But I
listen to
say,
audiobooks,
"Ah!"
Matt? I don't think you do you?
What's that?
Audiobooks?
I do sometimes when I'm driving, and I
Yeah.
really like Stephen King for driving because most of his books are pretty long, and he almost always has the same narrator, or at least the last time I listened, he had the same guy reading the story who always reads the Stephen King books.
All right, now into something real here. James says, I'm Ukrainian. People are extremely traumatized here. I may join the army soon. It's not decided. Are war veterans, will they still retain the sensations of subtle fear? I'm not, are we not presumed to judge that? But my guess would be no, James. And more importantly, I am so sorry for what you guys are going through over there. So I'm glad you're watching. I hope it makes your day just a little bit better in some way.
I was a Air Force veteran, but I was never close to combat.
Yeah.
But I knew people who were in combat, and they didn't find movies scary whatsoever. They said if you're watching a war flick and you want to know if it's realistic, set off a smoke grenade and shoot so no one can see anything, make a lot of loud noise so no one knows what's going on, and then shoot someone in the leg so everyone's terrified. That will scare you.
Sure.
But actually watching a visual experience, you know, this is what's relayed to me, not my own personal.
I can comment in this context. Our friend Ben Handelman, who's on the show a lot of Sundays, has been in combat. He's also, I guess you would call him, it would be accurate to say he's an expert on PTSD. He gives talks every now and then, I believe. I'm not sure if he's done it lately, but I know he's done it a lot. And so we were talking one time, and he said to me that I probably had worse PTSD than he did. And I disagreed vehemently, but he's the expert. And as far as any traumatizing thing I went through as a kid was pretty horrible, and I still can feel those sensations of fear in fiction. In real life, for me, I got to be honest and say I'm really not afraid of anything except when it comes to 2 things: my wife and my son. You know,
Yeah.
that's what can strike fear in my heart.
Okay,
I
we
can't,
can get you out of there, Mike. If you want, we can get you out of that situation so you're not so threatened.
Your
Well,
wife is
Danielle was
terrifying.
talking about, she was hitting me earlier, and I said I was going to turn her in for elder abuse. So, what, Kelly? You got something to add?
I said nothing.
I
That's what I
just had a
thought.
moment, honest to God, coincidentally, I just had a moment of being totally unnerved because I'm sitting out here in my office and something just knocked at my window, the outdoor.
Oh, wow.
window here, and I every now and then a bird will fly into that window, go bam, and it's kind of late for birds, but yeah,
Here
I
is
It's
don't
a
know.
my
bird, Mark.
That
I'm
was a
sure it's a
moment
bird.
of unnerve.
here is a perfect example, and I've said this before, so I'll be quick, of the kind of horror, the kind of feeling I'm always looking for when it comes to horror in fiction. The story The Night Ocean, the short story The Night Ocean by R.H. Barlow and H.P. Lovecraft, because there's this sense the protagonist realizes that there's something that he's never going to be able to understand behind the curtain of reality, and it's scary, but also there's this sense of awe that comes with it, um, which is why I like cosmic horror as well. Sorry, did I interrupt someone? And what else did you guys? Alan, you haven't said anything. Do you want to add anything?
I was just thinking, about who has the worst, PTSD. It's really tough to say what could be worse. Someone who has a short, horrible experience like DeBronzo and his incident in the water, or combat, or something short and violent, or years and years of abuse, or neglect. That's both can create different kinds of PTSD. It's tough to say which is worse.
Perhaps the answer is it really, I guess, doesn't matter which one is worse because both people in the situation, they're traumatized and they've got things they really have to work through, and you know maybe never will get it fixed per se. What about, we're all of an age here. What about fear of death? Does that bother anyone here?
Well, of
Praying
course,
for
you
it.
know, it's like,
You're praying for it, Kelly? That's really weird because I'm praying for your death too.
you know, all of us have seen enough people through the years die that sometimes things are terrible, you know? Like, what if you get Alzheimer's and your whole
Yeah,
life just slips through your fingers and then you're just a vegetative shell? That's scary. You can't, what if you become, I've had a friend die of ALS,
yeah,
where he is trapped in his body that's not responding to his commands. I mean, or you could have a really severe cancer that goes to the bones and then you're in agony every day. It's like you can imagine all these scenarios and you're sort of hoping like, oh, I hope of a big stroke, or like it's the big one, Elizabeth, like Fred Sanford used to do. It's like because you don't get to generally pick something relatively easy. Your body is designed to stay alive, designed not it's evolved to stay alive and to want to be alive. So death comes with fear and danger comes with fear because the self needs to be preserved. But on the other hand, uh, I'm not fearing death for my own sake. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like I'm more concerned that I just want to have some idea that my family that I can leave them in a situation where they can be okay. Not that they will be okay, but they could be. You know, that they can be independent and not have to I don't have to go into the great beyond fretting that, oh hell, they'll be on the streets.
I agree. Yeah,
I I'm a materialist. I think I don't think there's anything after. You're present for a moment and the moment's gone. In that
yeah.
sense, when I die, I won't have any concerns or pain or anything or any sensation or memory or awareness or anything.
Someone said to me recently that it kind of was consuming him, this fear of he was an atheist. He is an atheist, and he said this, thinking about all these millions of years after he dies, for whatever reason, this was really bothering him. And I said, well, it didn't bother you before, did it? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, that same nothingness that you're going to, that you're afraid of, you came from. It's gonna, if it doesn't really feel like anything, but if we can use that word, it's gonna feel the same as the void that you came from before you came into existence.
That sounds like a quote from Mark Twain.
Oh,
Like
does it
he
really?
says, "All the years I was dead before I was alive were not even an inconvenience." The universe, the best that can be said is like 14 billion years old.
Yep.
if it's a trillion years old when it runs into heat death or whatever, how
Here's
much?
something a little chilling on that note, Matt. There's I wish I could remember the title, but there's a really good like half-hour video on YouTube that kind of goes through the age of the universe. And one of the I need to rewatch it because it really fascinated me. But one of the big things I got out of it was that the universe is old. It's 14.7 billion years old. That's very old. But compared to how old it will get, that's nothing. And most of that time, there will not be life in the universe at all, most likely. It's just going to be
It's
this
like the
clockwork
other thing is like
universe.
a lot of the current attempts at modeling the universe through physics are no better than they were 70 or 80 years ago. String theory is not proven out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does dark matter really exist? So we actually have a model of the universe that is right now a lot of speculation involved. But on the other hand, I'm really just concerned with the next quarter century.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something I like to think about. It's interesting. I've always been an astronomy buff. Um, Kelly, I don't get you on here too often. Do you want to add anything to all of this?
Fear of death.
Hmm. Or
No,
whatever you want to, anything related to the
I have
conversation.
I have zero fear of death. I have a worry on how that death might come about. I would
Yeah.
like it to be quick. I would like it
I'll
to
help
be,
you with that.
yeah, sure, a horrific auto accident or a crazed fan or something like that would be just fine with me. I don't want to die in a burning house or drown or
Yeah.
find out I've got,
have a crazed
inoperable
fan
cancer.
Having a crazed fan implies fans.
Good point. I'm just putting that out
Most
there.
fan
everybody.
blades are plastic these days, not metal like they used to be when we were kids. So I don't think you have to worry about it, Kelly.
Yeah, so I don't believe that we go anywhere and are judged. Uh,
Yeah.
Although as I'm getting older, I'm starting to lean towards the idea that maybe there is some kind of creator out there. Certainly not one that cares about us or even this planet.
There's a line in Do McKee, speaking of Stephen King, where I forget the protagonist's name. It's my favorite Stephen King novel. I can't think of his name, but he he says something, thinks something to himself about the old lady that's down the beach. You guys know who I'm talking about, and she's suffering from dementia or something related, and she's really old and she's got all these problems that you're going to have when you're 90 years old typically. And he says something like, once she was beautiful at and once she was probably, I think he says something like, some man's sugar baby or something like that. Now she's drooling and toothless. If there's a god, I think he needs to try a little harder. So
Yeah.
so interesting question, James. Thank you. And
I
you're in our thoughts, Mike.
I just wanted to add, to us thinking about death in general.
Hmm.
I would probably add one of the things like somewhere in my mid 30s, I stopped. Like I actually, it's that had that one moment where you stop and literally smell the roses type thing,
Sure.
and you kind of realize, going back to when you're younger, you think you're bulletproof and you've got all the time in the world, and then I think somewhere around there, I just kind of like it's all going to end one day. So now I'm 51, and I'm not necessarily like, how am I going to die? When am I going to, it's more, but I do think about how I spend my time now,
Absolutely. I
because
couldn't agree more.
yeah, it's like, I think of things I did when I was younger. Yeah, a lot of it was stupid and I had fun, but it's like I see, you can go back and go, fuck, man, I could have done something so much more memorable or better or creative or however you want to put it. So now that's where I'm thinking, do I have 20 years, 30 years? I don't really think about that. but I know the trip from this point to the end is almost guaranteed it's going to be shorter than what's come before.
Yeah.
So that's probably like, I just don't want to waste my time.
You know what would
And-
suck is if
Okay, so like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Thinking about leaving your mark, I actually find it sort of fruitless. I think one of my favorite bits of trivia out of all of archaeology is one of the most long remembered names in all of civilization, dating back to maybe 2500 BC, is Ea Nasir. He is found in some very early, I think, Mesopotamian writing. He was a copper merchant, and some guy was bitching that his product was shit. So every archaeologist knows this guy's name, Ea Nasir, because he's in this complaint letter. This guy said, "Don't buy your copper ingots from Ea Nasir. You don't have to be great to survive. It's all going to be like, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair."
nothing beside remains.
Right. So
Well,
necessarily have to be a famous leader. You just have to have someone hate you so much they're going to write about you, and then another archaeologist will discover that note.
6,000 years, we know this guy sucked at making copper.
Right.
So
But
he really got. He got fucked.
Remember, if he had made good copper ingots, no one would know the name of Ea Nasir.
That's true.
But he wrote that complaint letter on the clay tablet, which has survived the eons. All of our digital ephemeral will be gone.
But the thing is, I feel like DeBronzo does, not because I think, oh, in 100 years people are still going to know my name and wow, this cool thing that I did, or these cool things that I did or created. It's more of, I want to get them done before I die for me. This is what I want to accomplish. And if 1,000 years from now someone's still enjoying what I did, that's great. If 1,000 years from now they're not, well, that doesn't change my desire to do them.
As far as shifting of priorities and how you use your time, so I feel like at this age I'm far more concerned with how I treat other people, how much I help other people to not be necessarily as self-centered, to be more giving. Over the years I've not been the world's most giving person. I've got and I feel like while I can, if I can help, I try to help, and that it means that I feel like that's a lot more important to me now than it ever was in my lifetime.
There's a Dean Koontz book right in the beginning. It's called Fear Nothing. The protagonist's father dies, and then later he's kind of thinking about his father in the book, and he says that his father was a great man. He never wrote the novel that he wanted to write. He never did this or that, but he was great because he was kind. So I agree, Mark. Anything else, guys? By the way, Matt. Chaz says you're the coolest fucking guy.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I messed up your previous comments, Chaz. I think I undid it, but I'm not sure.
So if you really, I mean, I think everyone has these thoughts. This is something people have been chewing on for the lifetime of humanity, going back over 100,000 years to the invention of language. And so I think if you want to listen to the song Hurt, sung by Johnny Cash, completed months before he died, only a few months before his wife, June Carter Cash, died. And then you can have it all, My Empire of Dirt. It wasn't the things that he had that were important. If I have a legacy, it's going to be that my sons thought I was a good father. That's going to be it,
Absolutely. It's funny, but I posted something on social media from a TV show I like last night, and it just to quote a little bit of it, he says, I've seen this is it's about a guy who's 200 years old. He can't die. The name of the show is Forever. But he says, I've seen a lot of death, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. But I've also seen a lot of life, a lot of beauty, and a lot of wonder. What you just said made me think of this quote. It's not the number of years we live that matters. Our lives just add up to a series of moments. They stick with us, marking our souls forever. So, so yeah. By the way, Simpsons Treehouse of Horror airing tonight, apparently. So I'm gonna watch the said November 24th. I don't know why it's in November. But
Yes.
sorry, Mike. What?
No, that's what I was. That's why I was making a face. Like, why is it coming out in
Well,
November?
somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but it says November the 24th. And I'm bringing this up because Ray Bradbury theme. A tattooed man at a mysterious night circus transports Lisa into three strange stories from the innocent 1950s, the chilling retro present, and a brutalist future where prestige TV rules the world. Parodies of The Screaming Woman, Marionettes Inc., and Fahrenheit 451, which are all Bradbury stories, of course.
So what else is everybody watching on TV right now?
Hmm.
We just started the series Prophecy, the Dune show. I enjoyed the first episode. You know, it's I don't know if it's going to be continue to be good, but very interesting characters and setting.
It's a prequel, right?
Yeah, well, it's not even. It's like 10,000 years in advance.
Okay.
They're talking about the creation of the Bene Gesserit as an organization and how it's interacting with the Imperium. They still are not talking about the Space Basing Guild or the Chome Corporation. So they're still keeping it more simplified, but they are. It's like basically the women are trying to manipulate so they can control the destiny of the universe by pushing the royal houses the way they want them to go versus what else might be happening. I actually really think oh hell, what's her name? The lead actress, Emily Watson. I've enjoyed her since I started seeing her in movies in the 90s. She never had the smashing career I thought she would, but she was in Breaking the Waves. She had a part in Chernobyl, and I think she's very good in this series too.
I think she's in. There's an Australian movie called The Proposition. Guy Pearce and Danny Houston. She's in there too. There's somebody else. I can't think of his name.
She was the leader of the Whisperers in Walking Dead.
That was her.
That was her.
Oh.
I never did watch The Walking Dead.
I punched out after the second season.
I tried to watch it. I punched out after the second episode.
But what else is? I'm just interested in any other news shows. Like we're starting the series From on movie night. But are there any other new good shows that y'all are watching?
Good question.
Besides the Hallmark Christmas movie, that's a given.
Wow.
Of course.
Mistletoe Murders.
Well, I know what I'm going to watch is Marianne. Thanks for the recommendation, Kelly. But what about Kelly, Ellen, DeBronzo? Anything you're watching?
No, not that I could think of series that are like new or current. I've been kind of trying to go through my to watch list. I'm horribly behind. The hell did I just watched today? Here for Blood. Kelly, I think you saw that. The wrestler and
Yeah.
it's kind of like the babysitter. I was like,
Yes.
I enjoyed that. But like series wise, yeah. Nothing really. I think I watched.
I'm sorry, Mike. Please.
I saw one of the many versions of Dawn of the Dead today too, the Argento version, which was really good. Little different. I haven't compared them side by side.
In between watching Five-Headed Shark Attack, you mean?
Oh no! I'm not watching that shit. I just send that stuff to Matt, so hopefully he'll watch it. That's my enjoyment, not the movie. Like him actually watching the movie.
Oh, your Christmas show for this year is not Five-Headed Shark, it's Red One. which is probably going to be shit, but I really want
It
to
is
see
shit. That's what I've heard. I sent you the other one of the werewolf
I
Santa Claus.
actually saw that last night.
Oh, tell us.
How's that feel?
It's shit. But there is a really very cool monster at the end of it. So
Oh,
As there is in every Santa related project.
I have been rewatching a little bit of Millennium. So
Good job.
great show. I wish they'd put it on streaming, but I have the DVDs thanks to a listener sent me those a couple of years ago. But just real quick back to you remember in the first episode where all this really scary shit has happened, this serial killer and everything, and Frank's cop friend Bob said, "I've never seen anything like what I saw tonight in 25 years of being a cop," something like that. And Frank's daughter was taken to the hospital earlier that day and goes, "Have you ever seen your kid in an ER ward?" Which really just sums up the whole what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So TV, anybody else? Alan?
Finished the Penguin. Kind of looking for something new now.
Yeah, I saw.
But
shit.
Creature Commandos will be out next week. So that,
Oh yeah, I really want to see that.
yeah.
Boy, the
forgot about the
Penguin
Penguin.
sure was as far as I was concerned, a dark horse, wasn't it? I never
It-
suspected it would be that good.
Yeah, it was. I actually binged the last 4 episodes because I was behind trying to catch up, and I just watched the 4th one, and I'm like, just kept going. I'm like, excellent.
It's Kelly's favorite Batman villain, I believe.
you know, I did not have high hopes for this show, but what a knockout!
Yeah, I think
If
maybe it
only
was
they
you,
had-
Kelly. That I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
If only they had Burgess Meredith.
Oh,
Well, there's an Easter egg for Burgess in there.
There is.
there is? I missed it.
Yeah, his
that
where
first
he lives,
episode.
that apartment. It's like, was it Burgess Jewelers or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I caught a few of those.
Yeah,
Nice.
there's a couple of them there. Even like when you get towards the end episodes, wherever they're at, I don't know if it's his girlfriend's apartment or whatever. There's like a almost like a chandelier, but it's umbrella shaped. It's just like this little. I just like one of those things you blink and you wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
But somebody had mentioned, Kelly, it might have been you on Strange Eons. Like, you got Colin Farrell, and why do you bury him under all the prosthetics? And once I got to the end, I'm like, he stopped being Colin Farrell at a certain point to me.
Right.
I think it's just like it's kind of like sometimes when you use actors that are not known, and it works because you can immerse yourself in it. You're not distracted by that's Al Pacino. Al Pacino playing a detective instead of this. That's the detective of the story.
Sure.
So he might have hated it, but I think it worked to me just to not be distracted by that. And it was just the character.
You know what I bet happened? Or this is just a guess. I haven't read it anywhere. But I would guess that he was one of the actors who really wanted to play Batman. And they're like, no.
Could be.
But hey, do you want to play the Penguin? And he's like, sure, why not?
He should be in the second one too. I thought I read that somewhere. He may not be the main villain, but he should appear in the second one when it comes out.
Well, you'll never see Batman in a TV series, right?
They have some weird thing where he can't show
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah. So weird. It's
Something
too
lingering
bad,
from
too.
the ABC 60s.
Because think what a great procedural show that could be. A Batman
He's detective.
show. Detective, yeah.
If you go look at like what's regular TV, or if anybody does that anymore, look at like when you're watching football, you see all the commercials for like CBS.
Yeah.
It's all procedurals. They're like evergreen. That's their go-to for shows.
Oh,
So-
Matt, you know what I am watching that is just kind of light and fun because I really like the actor. Is it's on season 2 now, a show called Tracker. It's
Oh.
Justin Hartley. It's just fun, and the other show I've gotten in, none of this is horror, but it airs on Hulu the next day. What's it called? It's I'll think of it in a minute, but it's basically this small town and Murder in a Small Town. You might like that, Matt.
I've heard of that. I've seen the advertisements for Tracker, but the season being what it is.
Well, if you had to pick between the two, if I had to
Ugh.
pick between the two and say which one would Matt like better, I would probably think Murder in a Small Town. But you might not like either.
Well, I'll check. Isabel and I like British mysteries, so
It's Canadian, but yeah.
Canadian, British. What's the difference?
Well, the Atlantic Ocean for one thing, but yeah.
Well, details.
All right, we got anything else to talk about?
The only thing I'd mention is I read that some of the details for the next Predator movie came out, and it sounds pretty good. It's for Badlands. It's not a direct sequel to Prey. This is another same director, different story, set in the future, set on a planet that's not Earth.
And
the Predator.
and the Predator's a protagonist, right?
Yeah, he's the main character.
Wow.
So they put I love Prey. I wasn't expecting to, I just be good, and then we saw it, and I'm like, no, that's really good. Like, one I'll definitely revisit. Sits on the shelf next to the original. But I like that they're doing that. And if Pete were here, he would talk about Dark Horse, which I'm not familiar with. But it's probably, I don't know if it's based on an old story or not. Anybody know that? But I know there's some stories that the Predator is the main character.
I thought they were doing a sequel to Prey, aren't they?
I think they are going to wind up doing it.
Sure
You
was
got
good.
something really good. You may as well ruin it.
Yeah, well,
There's also a secret Predator project that they referred to.
Yeah,
It may be
I heard about that.
animated.
There's an Alien vs Predator that they're just sitting on that they don't want to release for some reason. It's anime. It's all done, complete. It's just
Maybe it sucks. I don't know.
maybe it does, but I mean, from shit, I wish I could. I read about this like a while back, so I can't remember all the details. But I think a couple of people that either were involved in the project or somehow saw it said it was actually pretty good. I mean, come on, it can't be any worse than the Alien vs Predator movies that came out. And it's already done. So what do you have to lose?
You know, a movie that I'm really looking forward to is Nosferatu. Comes out December 25th, I believe. You guys know much about this film?
It's the guy that directed The Witch. I can't think of his name.
Robert Eggers.
Right, the guy that directed The Lighthouse.
The trailers. It looks great.
It does. Bill Skarsgård playing Nosferatu.
Interesting that they haven't shown us what Bill Skarsgård's look is going to be as Nosferatu yet.
They're not
going to try and surprise us with that.
I think they are. I read somewhere that they're deliberately doing that. And it's supposed to be the vampire's not gonna look like Nosferatu never looked handsome. No. Now it's ugly, monstrous looking person, right? Or vampire. But it's gonna be more monstrous. I forget how they put it. But it's also, I think they kind of want to maybe build up where people want, if you don't show the monster, people might want to go see the monster. I don't know. It comes out on Christmas. I don't do movies on Christmas because I just don't feel like getting my ass out. So hopefully it's good. Like, some of the visuals from the trailer look fantastic.
Well, here's a headline for you. And a couple of Nosferatu rated R for bloody violence and, quote, graphic nudity. This is on Bloody Disgusting. Yeah.
Is it going to be in black and white?
I don't know.
I believe it's color, right?
Okay.
Trailers.
It's interesting that Nicholas Hoult isn't he playing? I just blanked on the bug eater guy. Renfield. He played Renfield in that Nick Cage really fun vampire film. I loved that. And
he's the Harker stand-in in this one.
Yeah. Okay. Harker.
Okay.
I guess I'm just worried it's going to be like the Voyage of the Demeter, or I was so looking forward to it. And it was just okay. But I'm really looking forward to Nosferatu. I swear. I just hope it's good.
Well, interesting tidbit that I didn't know. You guys probably did, but the 1922 version of Nosferatu, silent film, of course. Um, it it was Stoker's wife got pissed off, and the court ordered all copies to be destroyed, which thankfully they weren't, so we can watch it today. But
Yeah, that's why Jonathan Harker's Hutter and Dracula's Orlok. They thought, she came after him and she won. And they're like, thankfully, not everybody, listens to what you're supposed to do.
yeah, you can stream it on Prime, I believe.
Yeah, I got a pretty good copy of it on DVD.
Is yours black and white or color?
Oh, black and white.
I noticed
There's a color version.
Go ahead.
There's a colorized version on Amazon. I tried watching it and didn't realize it was colorized, and I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't want to. The Prime one has color. I'm going to try and. I've never seen it, so I want to try and watch the black and white version.
A couple of Halloweens ago, they had in Greensboro, big, huge classic theater. They had Nosferatu with a live organ accompaniment, which was a huge screen too. So it was pretty impressive.
That must have been great.
Kelly, were you going to say something?
Good.
No, but Mark bringing that up, I have seen that Nosferatu with a live orchestra a number of times. Every time it shows up, in fact, I'll make a point of going to see it. It is really something else.
I think they did it at the Colonial in Phoenixville because they have a Wurlitzer. I mean, I've never seen it, but I know they did it. I was just like, that sounds cool.
I did see the movie. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, please. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys have spoken about Smile 2.
Oh, I want to see it. Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
It is shockingly good.
Really?
I don't.
I've heard that.
The first one certainly
I don't remember
was.
why I didn't like the first one. I barely remember the movie, and I don't know exactly why I decided to rent this. But I watched it yesterday, and I was like, "Wow, this was something else."
I saw the trailer in the theaters when I was watching either Oddity or Longlegs in the theater, and it's interesting. It's an interesting kind of twist where it's a celebrity who's the protagonist, who all the smile shit's starting to happen to.
Yeah.
I mean, what a cool premise. Not the whole smile thing. I mean, sorry, Mike. What?
I was just gonna say it's on Amazon to, it's probably like $20, but you can watch it from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you didn't. How much was it to rent on? Where'd you rent?
I didn't look.
Kelly watched it yesterday.
I think it was $16.99, so it was more than you want to drop. But I didn't feel bad at the end of it. I was like, wow, that was really good.
The way I always think of it is if I don't usually watch them, I wait till they go down in value. But if I do ever, it's still a hell of a lot cheaper than if even I alone would have gone to the movies.
Right.
So, and if I got somebody else watching the movie with me, there's another ticket at the movies and so forth. So you recommend it
to your home?
Yeah. That means I'm an old man and I can pause the movie frequently when I need to.
Right.
Go powder
That's
my
always
nose.
that's important.
Yeah. Hey, James was asking about old shit. I'm just saying, enjoy your 20s, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you're saying watch it? I'd like it, Kelly.
I think you would like it. It is pretty graphic. There's if you recall, the way the smile curse is kind of passed on is somebody who's been driven mad by it then kills themselves in front of somebody else. And this first kill is I was like, wow, this is hard to watch.
Wow.
So
you mean it's horrific, or horrific in the sense that it's graphic violence?
It is horrific gore. The damage that this person does to themselves. So
Jesus.
Be warned.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm still going to watch it. That's not my thing, as you know, but it's not really the whole movie, I'm guessing. So
There's some gore in this. It's not my thing either. There were a couple of scenes where I was just like, this scene is, I just kept looking away, going, this is lasting an awful long time.
Oh, it just keeps going on.
Yeah.
Oh, one of those.
well, I'm gonna wrap up here. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? Matt?
Cthulhu.
Remember, you can win a copy of Cthulhu, the Great Old One. It's a card game. Just send an email to easyandprices@gmail.com. Put purple in the subject heading. It's the color of the box. And we will have a drawing in like 6 to 8 weeks, and you might win it. You never know.
I recorded a deep background Patreon podcast with Kristen Dearborn yesterday, and
Nice.
I'll have that up on Wednesday for Patreons. If you're listening and you're not a Patreon, you get a hell of a lot for just the bottom tier of $5 a month. A hell of a lot, and it lets me. I can do this as opposed to going to get a job somewhere. So, but she was really interesting to speak with. She's a hiker and a climber, and she brought up the missing 411, whole thing there, and it's always fun when you recommend something to someone and then they email you and they're like, wow, this was great. Just like you said, I told her to skip missing 411, the first movie, but that missing 411, The Hunted, is super super creepy. So if you guys haven't seen that, you should. And she emailed me right in the middle of watching it and said she agreed. So yeah, if you haven't seen Missing 411, The Hunted, check it out. Speaking of things that'll creep you out, I'm glad you were here, Kelly. Thanks for being here. Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So everybody hold up their copy of Anna Carcosa if you got it handy.
If I
By
had known, I would have brought my copy.
Aren't you at home?
Yeah.
I'm
That would
sorry.
involve getting out of the seat.
Yeah,
Don't-
I'm
don't
sorry,
push it.
Kelly.
I don't know where
You see what I have to work with here.
I don't know where the fuck it is. Okay, it's somewhere in the house. Right.
Well,
I
if you
did
missed
read it.
if you missed us talking about it at the beginning, this is a new chapbook by Kelly Young and Rob Corliss. Anna Carcosa, 1 year under twin suns. The King in Yellow plays on live TV, and the world goes insane, basically. And
Yeah.
some really cool. I love the writing, and there's the art is wonderful.
Yeah, Rob Corliss is an award-winning animator, and every one of his images looks like it's an animation cell. It's just really, really neat.
Yeah. And pre-order marks The House at Blacktooth Pond. You can pre-order that on Amazon, and you can get Kelly's Anno Carcosa on Amazon as well. And yeah, support these people who come on and help me with the podcast. So
Thank you, Mike.
yeah, sure. Thanks for the prizes, Matt, and I hope everybody has a great week. By the way, if you watch my one-man show on Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, my family's going to be out of town for the Thanksgiving holiday, and so I am gonna it's every Thursday night, and of course Thanksgiving is on Thursdays, and so I am gonna do a show that night just for me, and I got a few requests to do it, and there's no reason why I shouldn't. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be sitting at home. So anyway, thanks guys for being here, and we'll see everybody next time.
Bye bye.
Sounds good.